The woman stumbled into Tanapa Junction, Nevada, with two screaming babies clutched against her chest, her dress torn and dusty, her face streaked with tears and grime, and she looked like she'd walked through hell itself to get there. Riley Anderson stood on the porch of the general store, his weathered hands gripping a sack of flour as he watched her collapse against the hitching post outside the saloon. The baby's cries echoed down the empty Main Street in the blazing August afternoon of 1881. Without thinking, he dropped the flour and strode across the dusty road, his boots kicking up small clouds with each step. "Madam." His deep voice was gentle as he approached, holding his hands where she could see them. "You need help." She looked up at him with the most striking green eyes he'd ever seen, though they were filled with exhaustion and something darker. Fear, maybe, or grief. Her auburn hair had mostly escaped its pins, hanging in tangled waves around her shoulders. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Water." "The babies need water." Riley didn't hesitate. He scooped her up with one arm, supporting the twins with the other, and carried all three of them toward the doctor's office. The woman was lighter than she should have been, all bones and determination. The babies couldn't have been more than a few months old, their tiny faces red from crying. Doc Patterson met them at the door, having heard the commotion. Together, they got the woman settled on the examination table while Riley fetched water. The doctor examined the babies first, pronouncing them dehydrated but otherwise healthy. Then he turned his attention to the woman. "I'm Katherine Taylor," she said softly, accepting a cup of water from Riley with trembling hands. "Kate, these are my sons, Jacob and Joshua." "Riley Anderson," he replied, his blue eyes studying her with concern. "What happened to you, Mrs. Taylor?" Her face crumpled, and she looked down at the babies now sleeping peacefully in a makeshift bed Doc had arranged. "It's Miss Taylor. I was never married. Their father." She paused, swallowing hard. "He died before they were born. Cholera took him in half our wagon train 6 months ago." Riley pulled up a chair, settling his tall frame onto it. At 32, he'd seen plenty of hardship on the frontier, but something about this woman's story gripped his heart in a way he couldn't explain. "How'd you end up here?" Kate took a shaky breath. "I've been traveling with another family since then, the Hendersons. But 3 days ago we were attacked by outlaws. They took everything. The Hendersons were heading to California and I couldn't." She stopped, her voice breaking. "I couldn't keep up with the twins. They left me behind at dawn with just enough water to maybe make it to the next town. Said I was slowing them down too much, putting their own children at risk. They left you alone in the desert with 2 babies." Riley's voice hardened with anger. "What kind of people would do that?" "Scared people," Kate whispered. "I don't blame them, not really. I've been nothing but a burden since Thomas died. No money, no prospects, just 2 more mouths to feed. They gave me what they could spare, which wasn't much." Doc Patterson had been listening while he worked, checking Kate over for injuries. "You're severely dehydrated and sunburned, young lady. You need rest, proper food, and shelter." "Riley, you thinking what I'm thinking?" Riley was already nodding. He owned the largest ranch in the area, the Anderson Cattle Company, sprawling across thousands of acres just outside town. His house was big, built for the family he'd always hoped to have. At 32, he'd been alone for 5 years, ever since his parents died in a fire that consumed the old homestead. He'd rebuilt, expanded, and created something impressive. But it was empty, hollow. "You can stay at my ranch," Riley said, his eyes meeting Kate's. "I've got plenty of room. You and your boys can rest, recover. No strings attached, just Christian charity." Kate stared at him, suspicion warring with desperate hope on her face. "Why would you do that for a stranger?" "Because someone should have done it sooner," he replied simply. "And because those boys deserve a chance at life. You all do. I can't pay you. I have nothing. Didn't ask you to pay. The ranch makes good money. I can afford to help folks who need it. He stood, his 6'3" frame casting a shadow across the room. What do you say? Better than the alternatives. Kate looked at her sleeping sons, then back at this tall, broad-shouldered rancher with kind eyes and a serious face. She had no other options, not really, but something in his expression told her she could trust him. Or maybe she was just desperate enough to believe it. All right, she whispered. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Riley, he corrected gently. Just Riley. 2 hours later, Kate found herself seated in a comfortable wagon next to Riley, the twins sleeping in a padded basket between them. The ride to his ranch took about 30 minutes, and with each passing mile, Kate felt her anxiety growing. What was she doing, going off with a strange man to his isolated ranch? But when she glanced at Riley's profile, strong and steady as he guided the horses, something in her settled. Tell me about your ranch, she said, needing to fill the silence. Got about 3,000 head of cattle, 20 horses, and a good crew of ranch hands. We supply beef to the mining camps and towns all through this part of Nevada. Built the house 5 years back after. He paused. After I lost my folks, made it bigger than I needed, always figured I'd fill it with family someday. I'm sorry about your parents. Life out here is hard. You take the good days when you get them. He glanced at her, then at the twins. Those boys of yours, they're strong. Making all that noise after walking through the desert, that takes fight. Kate felt tears prick her eyes again. They're all I have left of Thomas. He was a good man, Riley. We were going to get married in California, start a farm. He wanted children so badly. Her voice broke. He never got to meet them. Riley reached over and squeezed her hand briefly, a gesture of comfort that sent unexpected warmth through her. He'd be proud of how you've kept them safe. The ranch appeared on the horizon as they crested a rise. Kate's breath caught. She'd expected something rustic, maybe even rough. Instead, she saw a sprawling 2-story house painted white with a wraparound porch. Barns and outbuildings dotted the property, all well maintained. Cattle grazed in distant pastures, and she could see several men working near the corrals. This is beautiful, she breathed. It's home, Riley said, and she heard the pride in his voice. He pulled the wagon up to the house, and immediately 2 ranch hands came running over. Riley introduced them as Miguel and Sam, both young men in their 20s who tipped their hats respectfully to Kate. Madam, Miguel said, his eyes widening at the sight of the twins. Those yours? Yes, Jacob and Joshua. Sam let out a low whistle. Twins, that's something. Boss, you want us to help get them settled? Take care of the wagon and horses. I'll get Miss Taylor and her boys inside. Riley carefully lifted the basket with the sleeping babies, then offered Kate his other arm. She took it, grateful for the support. Her legs felt like water after the wagon ride. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Hardwood floors gleamed in the afternoon light streaming through large windows. The furniture was solid and well crafted, masculine but not unwelcoming. Kate could see through to a spacious kitchen and what looked like a dining room. I've got 4 bedrooms upstairs, Riley said, heading for the staircase. You can take the largest one. It's got the most space for the twins. The bedroom he showed her took her breath away. A massive bed dominated one wall, covered in a beautiful quilt. There was a dresser, a wardrobe, a rocking chair by the window, and plenty of floor space. Afternoon light poured through lace curtains, making everything glow. This is too much, Kate protested weakly. This is what you need. Riley set the basket down gently on the bed. The twins were starting to stir, making small sounds. They'll be wanting to eat soon, I expect. Kate felt her cheeks flush. Yes, I'm still nursing them. I'll give you privacy. There's a water pitcher and basin over there. I'll have Miguel bring up hot water for a proper bath later. You just rest and take care of your boys." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Kate, you're safe here. I want you to know that. Nothing's going to happen that you don't want to happen. You have my word." She met his eyes, saw the sincerity there, and nodded. "Thank you, Riley, for everything." After he left, Kate sank into the rocking chair and began to nurse the babies, taking turns with Jacob and Joshua. As she fed them, she looked around the room, still hardly believing her fortune. 3 days ago, she'd been abandoned in the desert to die. Now she was in a beautiful house, her children safe and fed, with a kind man offering her shelter. She thought about Riley Anderson. He was handsome in that rugged, weathered way of men who worked outdoors. Tall and strong, with dark brown hair touched with gray at the temples, and those startling blue eyes that seemed to see right through her. His face was tanned and lined from sun and wind, his hands calloused from work. But it was his gentleness with the twins that had truly moved her. The way he'd cradled them so carefully, as if they were precious. Thomas had wanted sons. He talked about it constantly during their journey west, planning their future, dreaming aloud about teaching his boys to farm, to ride, to be good men. And now he was gone, buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in Utah territory, and she was alone with those sons he'd never meet. Except she wasn't alone anymore, was she? She had Riley, at least for now, however long his charity lasted. Downstairs, Riley was talking with his foreman, Chuck Reynolds, a grizzled man of 50 who'd been with him since the beginning. "You brought home a woman with babies?" Chuck asked, his bushy eyebrows rising. "That's not like you, boss. She needed help. You'd have done the same, maybe. But having her here, that's going to start talk in town. You know how people are." Riley's jaw tightened. "Let them talk. That woman walked through the desert alone with 2 infants to keep them alive. She deserves better than being left to die or selling herself to survive. If folks have a problem with Christian charity, that's their concern, not mine." Chuck studied him for a long moment. "You're taken with her. I don't even know her." "Didn't say you did. Said you're taken with her. Saw it in your face when you carried her in." Riley turned away, looking out the window toward the distant mountains. "She's been through hell, Chuck. Lost the father of her children, got abandoned by people she trusted. She needs time to heal, that's all. I'm just providing a safe place for that." "If you say so, but Riley, be careful. Woman like that, with a story like that, she could break your heart without even trying." "My heart's fine," Riley said, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew they weren't entirely true. Something had shifted in him the moment he'd looked into Kate's green eyes. Something he'd thought long dead had stirred to life. That evening, Riley knocked softly on Kate's door, carrying a tray of food. "Thought you might be hungry," he called. "Come in," came her voice, sounding stronger than before. He entered to find her sitting in the rocking chair with both babies asleep in her arms. She'd washed her face and attempted to fix her hair, though she was still wearing her torn dress. She looked beautiful despite her exhaustion. "I brought stew, fresh bread, and apple pie. Cook makes the best pie in Nevada." He set the tray on the dresser. "Here, let me take them so you can eat." Kate hesitated, then carefully transferred the sleeping twins to Riley. He settled into the other chair by the window, cradling both babies with surprising skill. They didn't even stir. "You're good with them," Kate observed, picking up the bowl of stew. The smell made her stomach growl audibly. "Help deliver enough calves and foals. Babies aren't so different. They need to be held gentle but firm, kept warm, and given food and love." He smiled down at the twins. "Though these 2 are considerably cuter than calves." Kate found herself smiling for the first time in weeks. "Thomas used to say he hoped they'd have my eyes. They both do. Green like his were brown." Green's a good color, unusual out here. My grandmother was Irish. She had green eyes too. Kate ate hungrily, the food tasting better than anything she could remember. This is delicious. I'll tell Maria, she's the cook. Been with me 3 years now. She and her husband Pedro work here. They live in one of the cottages out back. How many people work for you? About 15 hands year-round, more during roundup and cattle drives. Most live in the bunkhouse, but a few like Maria and Pedro have families and their own places on the property. It's a good crew. Loyal. Kate watched him holding her sons, something warm blooming in her chest. Riley, I need to ask, what do you expect from me in return for your help? I won't. She paused, gathering courage. I won't sell myself, even for my children's safety. I can't. Riley's face hardened, but not at her. I expect nothing except that you rest and heal. When you're strong enough, if you want to help around the house, that's fine. But I'm not asking for anything, Kate. Certainly not that. Any man who demands such a thing from a woman in your position would be lower than a snake. Not all men think that way. Then not all men deserve to be called men. He looked down at the twins again. These boys. I always wanted sons like these. A family. Someone to build this ranch for, to pass it on to. My parents always hoped I'd marry, give them grandchildren, but things never worked out that way. Why not? You're successful, kind, handsome enough. Kate blushed at her own boldness. Surely women in town would be interested. Riley shrugged. Most women in Tanapa Junction are already spoken for. The few who aren't are looking for something I can't give them. They want excitement, adventure, a life beyond ranching. I'm just a simple cattleman who loves this land. That doesn't interest most women. It sounds wonderful to me, Kate said softly. Stability, safety, a place to call home, those are precious things. Their eyes met and something passed between them. An understanding, perhaps, or the first spark of something deeper. Jacob stirred, making a small cry, and Riley immediately began to rock him gently, murmuring soothing words. The baby settled back down. You're a natural, Kate observed. Just doing what feels right. He stood carefully. I should let you rest. Miguel brought up hot water earlier. It's probably still warm enough for a bath if you want. I'll take the boys down to the sitting room for a bit, give you some time to yourself. Are you sure? They might wake up and need me. If they do, I'll bring them right back up. You deserve a few minutes of peace, Kate. Take them. After he left with the twins, Kate did take that bath, sinking into the warm water with a sigh of pure relief. She washed away days of dirt and fear, scrubbing her hair until it was clean and smooth again. Someone had left a nightgown and robe on the bed, both simple but clean and soft. They were too big, probably meant for a larger woman, but Kate didn't care. They felt like heaven against her skin. She found Riley in the sitting room exactly as promised, the twins sleeping in his arms while he sat in a large armchair by the fireplace. He looked up when she entered, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of her in the nightgown with her damp hair falling loose around her shoulders. Feel better? He asked, like a new person. Thank you. She held out her arms for the babies, but Riley shook his head. They're content. Sit with me a while unless you're too tired. Kate wasn't tired, not really. Or maybe she was too tired to sleep, her mind still racing despite her body's exhaustion. She settled into the chair across from Riley, tucking her feet under her. Tell me about Thomas, Riley said quietly, if you want to. Kate was surprised by the request, but found herself wanting to talk about him. He was a merchant's son from Ohio. 25 when we met, I was 21. He had these dreams of going west, starting fresh. He said the future was in California, that we could build something real there. I believed him, she smiled sadly. He was so full of life, so enthusiastic about everything. When I found out I was carrying twins, he was thrilled. Terrified, but thrilled. He read every book he could find about babies, asked every mother on the wagon train for advice. He sounds like a good man. He was. Not perfect, but good. He deserved better than dying of cholera in the middle of nowhere, never getting to meet his sons. Tears slid down her cheeks. I was so angry at him at first. Angry that he left me alone, that he brought me west in the first place. But it wasn't his fault. Death comes when it comes out here. Yes, it does, Riley agreed softly. But so does life. These boys are his legacy, Kate. They'll grow up strong and good if you raise them right, and you will. How can you be so sure? Because you walked through the desert to save them. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of mother you are. Kate wiped her tears. What about you? Was there ever anyone special? Riley was quiet for a long moment. Once. Her name was Sarah. We were engaged, planning to marry after I built this house. But she met a railroad man passing through, decided she wanted to see the world more than she wanted to be a rancher's wife. Left me standing at the altar, literally. Married him a month later in San Francisco. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. It was. For a while. But I realized eventually that she did me a favor. Better to know before the vows than after. She wanted something I couldn't be, somewhere I couldn't go. Out here, you need a partner who loves the land as much as you do, who understands the life. Sarah never did. You still love her? No. I don't think I ever really did, not the way a man should love his wife. I loved the idea of her, of having someone, but we weren't right for each other. He looked at Kate. What about you? Did you love Thomas? Kate considered the question honestly. Yes. Maybe not the passionate, consuming love of novels, but a real, steady love. He was my friend and my partner. I trusted him. I miss him every day, but... She paused, unsure if she should continue. But what? But I also resent him a little for dying. For leaving me alone with 2 babies in a hostile world. I know it's not fair, not rational, but I feel it anyway. That's natural. Grief isn't rational. You're allowed to feel however you feel. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire crackle. Finally, Kate said, I should put them to bed. They'll be up in a few hours wanting to eat anyway. Riley stood and helped her carry the twins upstairs. As they settled the babies in the basket that would serve as their bed, their hands brushed, and both of them felt that spark again. Good night, Kate, Riley said softly. Good night, Riley, and thank you for everything. As he closed the door behind him, Riley leaned against the hallway wall and let out a long breath. Chuck was right. He was already taken with her, and that was dangerous. She was vulnerable, grieving, and dependent on him. The last thing he should do was develop feelings for her. But as he walked to his own room, all he could think about was the sight of her holding her babies, the sound of her voice, the courage in her eyes. Kate, lying in the big bed with her sons sleeping nearby, found herself thinking similar thoughts. Riley Anderson was everything Thomas hadn't been, quiet where Thomas was boisterous, steady where Thomas was enthusiastic, grounded where Thomas was dreamy. She shouldn't be thinking about him this way, not when Thomas had been dead less than a year. But she couldn't help it. Riley made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt since before Thomas died. Maybe even before that, the days that followed fell into a comfortable rhythm. Kate spent her time caring for the twins, slowly regaining her strength. Riley brought her meals, sat with her in the evenings, and held the babies whenever she needed a break. Maria, the cook, became a valuable friend, showing Kate around the house and providing advice on caring for twins. Twin boys, they are a blessing, Maria said in her accented English one afternoon. They were sitting in the kitchen while the babies napped upstairs. But also much work. You will need help as they grow. I don't want to impose on Riley more than I already have, Kate said, rolling out dough for biscuits. She'd insisted on helping with cooking and cleaning, needing to feel useful. Maria laughed. Impose. That man is happier than I have seen him in 5 years. He smiles now. Before you came, he was always so serious, so alone. Now he has reason to come home. He's just being kind. He is kind, yes, but this is more. You do not see how he looks at you when you are not watching, like you are water in the desert. Maria's dark eyes twinkled. And you look at him the same way. Kate felt her cheeks flush. I shouldn't. Thomas has barely been gone a year. Your Thomas, he would want you to be happy, no, to have help raising his sons. Riley Anderson is a good man, the best I have known. If something grows between you, do not push it away because of guilt. The dead are dead. The living must live. The words stayed with Kate as she went about her day. Was it wrong to feel drawn to Riley? To notice the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the gentleness of his large hands with her babies, the sound of his deep voice reading aloud in the evenings. That night, after the twins were asleep, Riley knocked on her door with an unusual request. I know this might sound strange, but would you like to take a walk? The moon is full and it's beautiful out. We can stay close to the house, and Maria said she'd listen for the boys. Kate hesitated, then nodded. That sounds lovely, actually. I've barely been outside since I arrived. They walked slowly around the ranch yard, Kate wrapped in a shawl against the cooling night air. The moon was indeed full, casting silver light across everything, making the desert landscape look magical rather than harsh. I never get tired of this view, Riley said, gesturing at the mountains in the distance. Every season, every time of day, it's different but always beautiful. It is beautiful, Kate agreed. Harsh but beautiful, like it demands respect. That's exactly it. The desert doesn't forgive carelessness, but it rewards those who understand it. He glanced at her. You understand it, I think. You survived it. Barely. If I hadn't found Tanapa Junction when I did. But you did. You kept walking when others would have given up. That's not luck, Kate. That's strength. They stopped near the corral where several horses stood dozing. One, a pretty Palomino mare, came over to investigate. Riley stroked her nose gently. This is Daisy, sweetest horse I've ever owned. She'd be perfect for you to learn to ride if you wanted. I've never ridden a horse. Really? How'd you travel west in a wagon? Thomas did all the driving and handling of the oxen. I just sat and sewed or read. She reached out tentatively to touch Daisy's soft nose. She's beautiful. So are you, Riley said, then immediately looked embarrassed. I'm sorry, that was forward. Kate's heart pounded. It's all right, thank you. They stood there in the moonlight, hands almost touching on the horse's neck, the air between them charged with possibility. Finally, Riley stepped back. We should go in. Don't want to worry Maria. As they walked back to the house, Kate felt both relieved and disappointed. Part of her had wanted him to kiss her to take that step, but another part was grateful for his restraint. Everything was so complicated. 2 weeks passed. The twins grew bigger and more alert, starting to smile and coo. Kate regained her strength, helping more around the house, even venturing out to the garden Maria kept. Riley taught her to ride Daisy, patient and encouraging as she learned. They fell into an easy companionship, talking for hours in the evenings about everything and nothing. Chuck and the ranch hands treated Kate with unfailing respect, charmed by the twins and grateful that their boss seemed happier. Several of them carved wooden toys for the babies, rough but made with care. It was Miguel who first called them the little bosses, and the nickname stuck. Jacob and Joshua became fixtures around the ranch, carried by various hands when Kate needed a break, cooed over and protected by these rough cowboys who'd never expected to become nursemaids. But it was Riley who was truly devoted. He built a double cradle for the twins with his own hands, beautiful and sturdy. He sat up with Kate on nights when the babies were fussy, helping walk them until they settled. He read to all three of them from books in his library, his deep voice soothing. And slowly, carefully, Kate felt her heart opening to him. It was different from what she'd felt for Thomas. This was quieter, deeper, rooted in mutual respect and shared experiences. When Riley smiled at her, she felt warm. When he was away checking cattle or handling ranch business, she missed him. When he held her sons, she imagined a future she had no right to imagine. One evening in late September, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset while the twins slept inside, Riley finally voiced what had been growing between them. "Kate, I need to tell you something. You can stop me if you want if I'm overstepping." Her heart raced. "Go ahead. I know you've been through hell. I know you lost the man you loved, that you're still grieving. I know you probably don't want to hear this, and I'll understand if you need to leave after I say it." He turned to face her fully. "But I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have fallen. I love your strength, your courage, your devotion to your sons. I love talking with you, sitting with you, just being near you. And I love those boys like they were my own." Kate's eyes filled with tears. "Riley, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. Whatever you feel or don't feel, you and Jacob and Joshua have a home here for as long as you want it. No conditions, no expectations. But if someday you think you might feel the same way, might want to build something together, I'd count myself the luckiest man alive." Kate wiped her tears. "I'm scared. Everything is so confused in my heart. I love Thomas. Part of me still does. But when I think about the future, when I imagine what comes next, you're in it. You're always in it. I don't know if that's love or gratitude or just needing security for my children. You don't have to know right now. I'm not going anywhere, Kate. Take all the time you need." She reached out and took his hand, their fingers intertwining. "I know this much. I care about you, Riley Anderson, more than I probably should, more than I'm ready to admit. You've given me everything when you owed me nothing. You've been so patient, so kind. And when you hold my sons, when you look at them like they matter, like they're precious, my heart just—" She paused, searching for words. "It feels like coming home." Riley squeezed her hand gently. "That's enough. That's more than enough for now." They sat together as the sun set, hands clasped, not speaking but not needing to. Whatever was growing between them, it was real and it was right, even if the timing was complicated. That night, Kate lay awake thinking about everything. She thought about Thomas, about the life they'd planned that would never happen. She whispered an apology and a goodbye, feeling something loosen in her chest. Thomas was gone. She would always remember him, always be grateful for the sons he'd given her, but he was gone. And she was alive with a future stretching before her, a future that looked suspiciously like Riley Anderson. The next morning, Kate made a decision. She put on her best dress, one Maria had altered to fit her, and styled her hair carefully. Then she took the twins downstairs to where Riley was having breakfast before heading out for the day. "Morning," he said, smiling at the sight of them. "You look beautiful. Riley, sit down. I need to tell you something." His face grew serious, but he sat. Kate took a deep breath, balancing a twin on each hip. "I've been thinking about what you said last night, about your feelings. And I need you to know that I've fallen for you too. I didn't plan to, didn't think I ever would again after Thomas, but you made it impossible not to. You're everything I didn't know I needed. Strong but gentle, serious but kind, steady in a world that never stops shaking." Riley's face lit up with hope. "Kate, but I need time. Not time away from you, but time to do this right. To grieve Thomas properly, to be sure of my own heart. Can you give me that? Can you wait a little longer?" "I'll wait as long as you need," Riley said firmly. He stood and came to her, cupping her face gently with one hand. "However long it takes, you're worth waiting for." Kate turned her face into his palm, kissing it softly. "Thank you." "Can I do something?" he asked. "Can I court you proper? Take you on rides, bring you flowers, all the things a man should do when he's trying to win a woman's heart?" Kate laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "I'd like that very much." So Riley courted her. Despite living in the same house, he treated her with old-fashioned propriety. He brought her wildflowers from the range. He took her on picnic rides, with the twins bundled in saddlebags he'd specially designed. He taught her to shoot, standing behind her as she learned to handle a rifle, his arms around her showing her the proper stance. He sang to the twins, his deep voice carrying them off to sleep with old cowboy songs and lullabies. He showed Kate the ranch's accounts, treating her like a partner, asking her opinion on decisions. He made her laugh with stories of ranch mishaps and misadventures, and slowly, Kate felt herself healing. The grief for Thomas didn't disappear, but it changed, becoming something she could carry without it crushing her. She began to think about the future with excitement rather than fear. The twins thrived, growing fat and happy. Jacob was the quieter one, content to watch the world with serious eyes. Joshua was louder, demanding attention, always wanting to be held. Both were healthy and strong, meeting every milestone Maria assured Kate they should. "They need a father," Maria said one day as they watched Riley playing with the boys in the sitting room, making them laugh with silly faces. "And he needs to be their father. When will you stop this waiting, eh? You both know what you want." "Soon," Kate promised, "when it feels right." That moment came in October on a crisp fall morning when the air smelled of wood smoke and dried grass. Riley had taken Kate and the twins up to a high meadow on the ranch, a place he said was his favorite spot. They spread a blanket and let the babies practice their newfound ability to roll over while the adults talked. "My parents are buried near here," Riley said quietly, pointing to a small fenced area under a cottonwood tree. "I come up here when I need to think, to feel close to them." "I'm glad you brought me," Kate said. "This place is special. I wanted you to see it. Wanted you to know all of me, the sad parts and the happy parts." He picked up Joshua, who was starting to fuss. "I want to ask you something and you can say no. There's no pressure." Kate's heart began to pound. "All right. I know we haven't known each other long, just 2 months. But I think when you know, you know. I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He shifted Joshua to one arm and reached into his pocket with the other, pulling out a simple gold ring. "This was my mother's. She wanted me to give it to the woman I married. Kate, I love you. I love your boys. I want to be a father to them, a husband to you, a family together. Will you marry me?" Kate looked at him, this good man holding her son, and felt absolute certainty flood through her. This was right. This was what was meant to be. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Riley. I'll marry you." He whooped, startling Joshua into crying, then laughing as Riley kissed Kate for the first time, quick and sweet and full of promise. Jacob, not wanting to be left out, began crying too, and they broke apart laughing, each picking up a twin. "I love you," Kate said, the words feeling both strange and perfect. "I really do love you. I love you too, all 3 of you." Riley slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. "I can't wait to marry you, to make this official." "How soon?" Kate asked. "How about next month?" "Give people time to get used to the idea, have a proper wedding. Unless you want to wait longer." "No. Next month is perfect. I don't want to wait anymore." They were married in November on a Sunday afternoon at the church in Tanapa Junction. Kate wore a simple but beautiful dress Maria helped her sew, cream-colored with lace at the collar. Riley wore his best suit, looking handsome and nervous. The church was packed. The townspeople had been shocked when news of the engagement spread, but Riley's reputation and obvious devotion to Kate had won most of them over. Those who still gossiped kept it quiet, not wanting to cross Riley Anderson. The twins were there, of course, held by Maria and Chuck during the ceremony. Jacob fussed a little, but Joshua was surprisingly quiet, as if he understood the importance of the moment. "Do you, Riley Anderson, take Katherine Taylor to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward?" the Reverend asked. "I do," Riley said firmly, his eyes never leaving Kate's face. "And do you, Katherine Taylor, take Riley Anderson to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward?" "I do," Kate said, tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears. "Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Riley cupped Kate's face in his hands and kissed her properly for the first time in front of everyone, and the church erupted in applause. When they broke apart, both were smiling so hard their faces hurt. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and food enough to feed half the county. Cowboys and townspeople mingled, celebrating this union that had seemed impossible just months ago. The twins were passed around, cooed over, celebrated as the newest members of the Anderson family. As evening fell and people began to leave, Riley and Kate stood on the porch, watching the sunset, the twins asleep in their arms. "How does it feel to be Mrs. Anderson?" Riley asked. "Like I'm finally home," Kate replied. "Like everything that happened, all the pain and loss, led me exactly where I was meant to be. I feel the same. I know the circumstances were hard, but I can't regret them because they brought you to me. Do you really think of them as your sons?" Kate asked quietly, looking down at Jacob sleeping peacefully in her arms. "I don't think of them any other way. They're mine in every way that matters, Kate. Blood doesn't make a father. Love does. Commitment does. And I'm committed to these boys for life. They're lucky to have you, we all are." That night, after putting the twins to bed in their new nursery, the room next to the master bedroom that was now theirs together, Riley and Kate finally came together as husband and wife. It was tender and sweet, both of them nervous but eager, discovering each other with care and growing passion. Afterwards, lying in Riley's arms, Kate felt completely at peace for the first time in over a year. This was where she belonged. This was her life now, and it was good. The winter passed in domestic bliss. Kate loved being a wife and mother, loved running the ranch house alongside Maria, loved the quiet evenings with Riley by the fire. The twins grew rapidly, becoming more interactive and playful. By spring, they were sitting up, babbling, reaching for everything. Riley was an incredible father. He spent every free moment with the boys, talking to them, playing with them, carrying them around the ranch to see the animals. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors with them when they were sick, read to them every night. "You're so good with them," Kate said one evening, watching him give Joshua a bath while Jacob waited his turn. "They're easy to love. Look at this face." Riley made Joshua laugh by blowing bubbles, water splashing everywhere. "Besides, I waited a long time for this, for a family. I'm not taking a single moment for granted." In May, Kate realized her monthly courses were late. She waited another week to be sure, then went to see Doc Patterson in town. He confirmed what she already suspected. "You're expecting, Kate. About 2 months along, I'd say." "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified," she admitted. "Happy but terrified. The twins are barely a year old. You'll manage. You've got Riley and Maria and a whole ranch full of people ready to help." He smiled kindly. "Congratulations." Kate worried about telling Riley. They hadn't discussed having more children, and she knew he'd taken on a lot already with the twins. But that night after dinner, she gathered her courage. "Riley, I need to tell you something." He looked up from the accounts he was reviewing. "What's wrong? You look worried." "I'm pregnant." About 2 months along. Doc Patterson confirmed it today. Riley's face went blank with shock, then split into the biggest smile Kate had ever seen. He jumped up, sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around. "We're having a baby, our baby." "Yes. Are you happy?" "I know it's soon and we already have the twins." "Happy? Kate, I'm thrilled. This is incredible." He set her down gently, his hands going to her still flat stomach. "Our child. Yours and mine. You're not worried it's too much, not even a little. I told you I always wanted a big family." "The more the merrier." He kissed her softly. "Thank you. For this, for the twins, for being my wife. You've given me everything I ever wanted." That night, lying in bed, Riley's hand resting on her stomach, Kate reflected on the strange path her life had taken. A year ago, she'd been stumbling into Tanapa Junction expecting to die. Now she was married to a wonderful man, mother to 2 thriving boys, and expecting another child. Life was unpredictable and often hard, but it could also be surprisingly, wonderfully good. The pregnancy was easier than her pregnancy with the twins had been, perhaps because she wasn't traveling in a wagon or dealing with grief. Kate bloomed, her cheeks pink and her hair shiny. The twins learned to walk that summer, toddling around the ranch under the watchful eyes of the cowboys, who'd become a dozen unofficial uncles. In January of 1883, Kate gave birth to a daughter. The labor was long but manageable, with Riley by her side the entire time, holding her hand, wiping her brow, whispering encouragement. "It's a girl," Doc Patterson announced, holding up the squalling infant. "Healthy and strong." Riley wept as he held his daughter for the first time. "She's perfect. Kate, she's absolutely perfect." They named her Rose after Riley's mother. She had Kate's green eyes and Riley's dark hair, and from the start she was adored by everyone on the ranch. The twins were fascinated by their baby sister, wanting to touch her constantly, bring her toys, help with her care. "Gentle, Joshua," Kate would say as the energetic toddler tried to pat Rose's face. "She's little." Life settled into a new rhythm with 3 children. It was chaotic and exhausting, but also joyful. Kate had never been happier. She'd found her place in the world, her purpose, her family. Riley expanded the ranch that year, buying adjacent land, increasing the herd. He was building an empire for his children, a legacy that would last generations. The twins, now nearly 2, showed distinct personalities. Jacob was thoughtful and gentle, preferring books and quiet play. Joshua was all energy, climbing everything, getting into constant mischief. "That one's going to be a handful," Chuck observed, watching Joshua try to climb into a horse's stall despite being told no a dozen times. "He's spirited," Kate said diplomatically. "He's a terror," Riley corrected, but he was smiling. "Just like I was at that age, according to my mother." The years passed quickly. Rose grew into a sweet, bright little girl who had her father wrapped around her finger. The twins started lessons with a tutor Kate hired, learning to read and write and cipher. The ranch prospered, becoming one of the most successful in Nevada. In 1885, Kate gave birth to another son, whom they named Robert after Riley's father. In 1887, twin girls arrived, Margaret and Mary, much to everyone's surprise and delight. 6 children, Riley said, holding his newest daughters while surrounded by his other children. "We have 6 children, Kate. I know, it's madness. It's wonderful." He looked around at their family, his face full of love and pride. "This is everything I ever wanted, everything and more." The children grew up surrounded by love, learning to ride almost before they could walk, helping with ranch chores as soon as they were able. Jacob and Joshua, though not biologically Riley's, never knew any father but him. He treated all his children exactly the same, with patience and love and firm guidance. When Jacob was 10, He asked Kate about his biological father. She'd been expecting the question, had prepared for it. Your first father was named Thomas Taylor. He was a good man who died before you and Joshua were born. He would have loved you very much. But Riley is your real father in every way that matters. He chose you, chose to love you and raise you. That makes him your dad. I know, Jacob said seriously. I just wanted to know where I came from. You came from love, Kate told him. That's what matters. The years continued to pass. The children grew tall and strong, each finding their place on the ranch or in the world beyond. Jacob became a scholar, eventually going to college in San Francisco to study law. Joshua took to ranching like he was born to it, becoming Riley's right-hand man. Rose married a doctor and moved to Reno. Robert became a veterinarian, traveling throughout Nevada caring for livestock. Margaret and Mary, inseparable as always, opened a dress shop in Tonopah Junction. Through it all, Riley and Kate's love only deepened. They'd built a life together from nothing, overcome impossible odds, created a family that was the envy of everyone who knew them. On their 20th wedding anniversary, they stood on the porch of their home, watching the sunset just as they had on their wedding day. You ever regret it? Riley asked. Taking a chance on a stranger who offered you shelter? Never. Not for a single moment. Kate leaned into his embrace, still fitting perfectly after all these years. You saved my life, Riley. You saved my son's, and then you gave me so much more. A home, a family, a love I never expected to find. You saved me too, Riley said quietly. I was just existing before you came along. You gave me purpose, meaning, joy. You gave me everything. I showed up desperate and broken with 2 babies, and you said, I always wanted sons like these, Riley finished, smiling at the memory, and I meant it. I meant every word. Those boys, all our children, they're the best thing that ever happened to me, second only to you. They stood together as the sun set over the Nevada desert, 2 people who'd found each other against all odds and built something lasting. The ranch thrived around them, full of life and laughter, the legacy they'd created together. Inside the house, they could hear their grandchildren playing. Jacob had come to visit with his wife and 3 children. Joshua lived on the ranch with his family in the foreman's house. The others visited regularly, filling the house with noise and joy. We did good, didn't we? Kate asked. We did great, Riley corrected. We took broken pieces and made something beautiful. As darkness fell, they went inside to join their family, together as they'd been for 2 decades, as they would be for however many years remained. The lonely rancher had found his family. The desperate woman had found her home. And 2 babies who might have died in the desert had grown into fine men with families of their own. It was a good life. A hard life sometimes, full of challenges and setbacks, but good. Full of love and laughter, of purpose and meaning. Full of children and grandchildren, of sunsets and sunrises, of quiet moments and chaotic ones. It was exactly the life they'd both needed, the life they'd built together from hope and determination and love. The kind of love that lasted, that endured, that grew stronger with each passing year. And as Riley and Kate sat surrounded by their family that evening, watching their grandchildren play, they knew they'd been blessed beyond measure. The journey had been hard, but it had brought them to exactly where they were meant to be together. Home, forever.